Granoff Chapter 1, Part 2, State and Local Government and Private Not-for-Profit Entities. Our coverage: importance of accounting for state and local government entities, composition of the local U.S. governments, importance and impact of the not-for-profit sector, and how do state and local government entities differ from private not-for-profit entities. There are over 90,000 state and local governments in the United States based on a 2012 census. State and local governments account for 11.7% of the U.S. GDP, 15% of paid employment. State and local governments collected approximately $2.54 trillion in general sales and gross tax receipts in 2013. There are over 3,000 counties, over 19,000 municipalities, over 16,000 townships, over 12,000 school districts, and over 38,000 special districts, again based on the 2012 U.S. Census. But you can see that this is a powerful impact, and we will be looking at the accounting for these types of entities. Let's look at the not-for-profit sector. Between 2012 and 2014, 1.4 million organizations, revenues 1.74 trillion, contributions from private sources in 2013, 335 billion, and the percentage of wages and salaries paid in 2012, 9.2%. Again, a powerful sector, and we will look at this. Private not-for-profits are based on FASB, and we cover those in the last part of the semester. Importance of the not-for-profit sector: individual contributions, 241 billion, charitable requests, 27 billion, foundations, 50 billion, and corporate donations, almost $17 billion. Volunteering for the not-for-profit in 2013, volunteers contributed an estimated 7.7 billion hours. This would equate to about $173 billion of work contributed to these entities. And this equates to about 5.5% of the country's GDP. So how do state and local government entities compare with private not-for-profit entities? A not-for-profit entity, well, of course, it can either be governmental, based on GASB, or private, based on FASB. And I just mentioned private not-for-profits, but again, you could have a governmental not-for-profit. Whether an entity should be categorized as a state and local government or a private not-for-profit is not always obvious, and no definitive criteria exists to distinguish the two. Here's where we need our critical thinking skills. Auditors and managers will have to look at the facts and make a decision. We focus on private not-for-profit entities in chapters 12, 13, and 14. State and local government entities. These entities have the power to tax, collect license and other fees, and impose charges. Should the entity lack funds to satisfy its obligations or enhance services, it can attain them by legislative action. These entities are currently required to include in their annual reports substantial amounts of demographic and economic data about the jurisdictions they serve. Governmental or private? A huge issue, like I said earlier, for management and auditors. The following characteristics, in addition to the ones on the previous slide, are indicative of a state and local government. It may issue tax-exempt debt. Its governing bodies are either popularly elected or appointed by another government. Another government can unilaterally dissolve it and assume its assets without compensation. This is an area that requires a strong foundation in the objectives of this course and professional judgment, as well as a thorough understanding of the entity.